Razdan, whom I'm going to call as Anu with your permission. And she's a member of the management committee of HUL, since she's the executive director HR of HUL, and also VP HR for Unilever South Asia. She is also the member of Unilever Global Leadership Team. As you might have guessed, she's a graduate of XLRI. She graduated in 1999 and has been in various roles in both HUL as well as Unilever, both in India and abroad. She had an extended stint in London. In the external ecosystem also, Anu has been very active. She's a board member of NHRDN and a co-chair of the FICCI HR committee, as well as the chairperson of Diversity and Inclusion Committee of Bombay Chamber of Commerce. She's very passionate about leadership development and is a strong voice advocating for more inclusive businesses and communities. And she's also passionate about building up skills in youth. Maybe that is one of the reasons which attracted her to come here with so many of our youth leaders here. She sits on the UNICEF South Asia Youth Skills Regional Steering Committee. And, I can go on and on and on, and the body of work she's done is quite a lot. In fact, it is such a lot that business today could not but recognize that she's one of the most powerful women in businesses in 2020. So congrats on that accolade, Anu.
Thank you.
And I think balances life is also something she has managed well. Her husband Harsh is in consultancy, and she has a 11-year-old son, Rishi. They all love traveling, and I'm sure that hopefully very soon all of us will be traveling again. So welcome to the session. And although I'm in my kind of second career, because now my responsibilities are over, so I'm going to listen to it as eagerly as our students. So I hand it over to you, Anu.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Leah, should we have the presentation up, please? Thank you. Thank you for taking time from what I'm sure would have been a relaxing Saturday to come and listen to me. I hope it's worth your while. And I know you've had a number of stalwarts like Shanks and others talking to you before. I hope that what I can share with you gives you some useful tips for your summer internship and for your careers going forward. Gayatri has already been very, very generous in my introduction. So really nothing to add, except that, when I started off 20 years ago, I had no idea. First of all, I had no expectation or belief that I would get an offer by HUL because they had this reputation of choosing people who were in the top 2 or 3, and I was certainly nowhere there. But having got in here, I spent most of the first 5 or 10 years thinking that this career would not go very far, because there was always such great talent around. I always wondered how we would manage a double career. And then slowly and surely along the way, the power of the organization really started to hit me. The kind of input, the kind of development, the kind of roles. Before I knew it, I had spent more than 2 decades here with experiences across the business, having spent 6 years in London, coming back to HUL in 2019 was something of a dream, to a job that I had never even thought I would get in my dreams. But it's really, it's been the most fulfilling, one of the most fulfilling assignments of my career. And to be here in India, to be here serving our people at a time when there is so much going on in the country, I just think that I'm very fortunate to have had this privilege. So thank you again for listening to me. And I hope some of my lessons and experiences give you the inspiration that you need at this very, very important but exciting juncture of your career. Let's move to the next slide, please. Starting off, I just wanted to say that this is really a time like no other. This is a summer like no other, because the world is in a place that it has never been. India is in a place that it has never been in before. And while at the moment there is much sadness and grief and much for us to be concerned and worried about as a collective, this too shall pass. And I believe tremendously in the bright and optimistic future of our country. And I think that as people who are about to join the workforce at this time, you are going to have a very, very exciting career ahead of you. Why do I say that? Because when the pandemic is past us, we are going to find that we're already seeing that there are such transformational and dramatic changes in all aspects of work, the way businesses are run, the way we look at technology, the way skills are going to have to be reset, the way economies are going to have to find their way, and of course, the way the workforce, their aspirations will evolve, and the way workplaces will evolve. So, in a way, it's going to be the best of times and the worst of times. And I'm almost jealous that you're going to step into the workforce at a time when there is so much transformation ahead of us. And therefore, it's really, really important that bright young minds like yourself think a bit about what it is that you want to do. Because the one thing it's not going to be is predictable or nothing. I almost feel confident that nothing that anyone like me or anyone who has been here before, who has been there before, can share will be uniformly applicable to your experiences and what you will go through. But just remember that this is a time like no other. This is, at the moment, this is almost like a wartime. So nothing is ordinary, nothing is usual. So if you think that your summer experience is not going to plan, or if you are worried about what does it mean for my pre-placement offer, or what it means for my job, my only advice would be hang in there. The world, our country is going through a much, much bigger challenge than is important, that is far more important than any of our individual careers or in any of our individual aspirations. But make the most of this time, because the learnings, the experiences, the knowledge, the relationships that we will build in this time will far outstrip anything else that we've seen in our careers before. So don't ask me, if you ask me the question, how am I going to script my career ahead? I would not have an answer for that, because I would say that, first of all, I don't think you can script a career. Nothing goes to plan. If I had planned 20 years, they might have looked very, very different from what they turned out to be. And cliched as it may sound, I would say just make the most of every experience that you find yourselves in, and just enjoy the ride. Let's move to the next slide, please. I wanted to share with you since I was told that this is all about career planning hacks, I said, let me share with you a few lessons or a few pieces of advice which have always stood me in good stead. And then we'll get into question and answers, and I'd love to hear what's on your mind. The first thing I want to say to you is find your superpower early. And when I say that, I really mean it, because each of us is hired for our strengths, whether it's a summer internship, whether it's a final job, whether it's jobs and careers subsequently. We are hired for our strengths, yet we are too apologetic speaking about them. We spend far too much time thinking about what are my areas of development, what are my areas of growth. So the first thing I'd say is find your superpower early. Start thinking about what is it that you uniquely bring to any situation, to any role that nobody else can. Start thinking about what your biggest strengths are and start playing from a place of your strengths. I think I'm very fortunate that what I do for a profession as an HR leader is so close to my leadership purpose, or so close to one of my biggest strengths. Otherwise, I would not have seen myself last in a career for so long, particularly at a time like this, when there is so much adversity, there's so many challenges. I often ask myself, uh, what keeps me going? And I found that it's because what I'm doing is so close to my heart, it's so close to my strengths, it's so close to my leadership purpose, that there's a completely different sense of energy and drive that gives. And that's what I would like to say to you. For me, quite early, I realized that I wanted to do something that touched people, because I had that unique ability to leave a powerful or a positive impact on anyone I engaged with. Equally, I was very, very excited to do this in the context of a business rather than, in a philanthropic or a charitable institution. And that's why when I started studying economics at in the first year of my college, I knew that I wanted to do something in human resources. And since then, I have never had the opportunity or never had a moment where I've asked myself, is this the right career? Now, you may not always strike gold the first time. And it might actually mean that you change lanes along the way, or the chosen field is not something that fulfills you. But my first lesson to you is choose and play from a place of your strengths. And if the job or if the career that you step into in the first few years you realize is not playing to your strengths, don't be afraid to change lanes, because you really got, all of us spend a lot of time at work. So it has to be something which fulfills us and excites us, and it has to be something which plays to our strengths. So that's the first thing I wanted to say to you. Let's move to the next slide, please. My second piece of advice is work up a sweat. Choose roles and opportunities that challenge you. Because, like they say, what doesn't challenge you will not change you. You will get a lot of opportunities, a lot of roles that come up your way. You could go for what you think is the conventional, safe routes, or you could choose to take risks. You could choose, put your hand up to do things which have not been done before. But whatever you choose to do, make sure that you are continuously building new skills. You are continuously pushing yourself. If you find that you have reached a place where after a couple of years in a role, you want to do something different, but you've not yet figured out what, ask for more responsibility. Put your hand up for additional projects. And the same thing is also with your summer internship, with your project. If you feel that you are not adequately stretched, put your hand up for more. And that's where you will find that you stretch yourself, you push yourself, choose different experiences, different roles. In my own career, I've seen that when I have moved from different roles, I have grown every time. For example, I started in a sales HR office, sales HR role. Then I went into a factory where I did very little HR, and I almost was functioning as the legal manager because it was one of our oldest factories. And my handover really was being handed over 35 historic legacy cases. And for 2 years, I have spent more time with the legal teams than the HR teams. And I had some very, very tough moments. But what I learned in terms of, detailing, understanding of the labor law, understanding of what it means to rigorously get into something is an experience that I would never have had otherwise. I then worked with different parts of the business. I worked with the supply chain at a time when I had no understanding of what the supply chain was. Or much later in my career, I, always put my hand up for more. And so I very often, I ended up doing two jobs. So when I was in London, I was the head of the home care HR business. But at the same time, I was also supporting our premium beauty business, which was acquiring a lot of new businesses. And it was the first time I was actually doing anything to do with mergers and acquisitions. And it was so tough because It meant understanding what laws in the US looked like. I used to be on calls where I couldn't understand from line to line what was being said, but I persevered. I grew, and I found at the end of it feeling so much more capable, so much more able, and there are many more examples. But the first thing I would say to you is find that stretch, and only you know when you have reached the limit and are starting to feel comfortable. It's like working out in a gym. You slowly raise the bar, and only the individual knows when you are really now just sort of keeping up the level and when you need to push a little more. And when you reach that, make sure that you're asking for more. Ask for roles that challenge you. It doesn't matter whether that they are the glamorous roles or the roles which people have taken. And you'll find me saying this very often to you, very often in the next hour or so. But work up a sweat, keep building new skills. And because, like I say, you have fun when you're learning, but you have even more fun when you are going through something which is you have fun when you're winning, but you have even more fun when you are in adversity because you learn much more in the end. Let's move to the next slide. My third piece of advice to you is learn from everyone everywhere. If somebody asks me what is my biggest strength, I would say that the one thing that I have done consistently and with a lot of humility is really focus on my development, and I have invested as much in myself as I have invested in my jobs, in my business, and who are interlinked. But it starts with the self-awareness or personal mastery, as we call it, and it's never too early to start. Start reflecting on what are your strengths, what are your areas of development, what are the consistent points of feedback that you get. One summer internship may not give you that, but as you get into jobs and in the first few years, over the early years, you will understand what are your strengths, what are the consistent pieces of feedback. Get a group of trusted advisors who will always be your sounding board, who will not be afraid to tell you the truth, no matter how harsh it is, and keep working on your development. For example, and I find that when you do this, you really take the next leap forward. For example, there was a point in my life when I was leadership development head for HUL, and I was sort of coasting along nicely, was on top of my job. But one of the things that I got as feedback, and one of the things that I started learning for myself, realizing for myself, was that for me to really take the next leap forward, I had to build global perspective. And I had a boss who was kind enough to work out for me a secondment. That secondment meant going to London for 4 months. My son was only a year and a half then, and it was a tough choice. But with a lot of support from my bosses and my family, I did take that decision. And I found that those 4 months when I went there, I was literally like a student. I was working with the global talent team for Unilever, stepping in for the talent director who had recently resigned. And again, working in a completely different context. And I find that those 4 months really set me up for further success when I went on expatriation. And so be very humble and hungry about your development. No success is sort of there. There is no time for complacency, because the minute complacency sets in, somebody else is going to take the place where you are, because it's true when we say that it's not the brightest, but the ones who are the hungriest. And as we go forward, even more, as the world is changing so rapidly around us, the biggest skill will be the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that's what we are actually doing in HUL for all our employees. We don't call them development plans anymore. We call them future fit plans. And therefore, if we are not constantly thinking about how's the world changing and what do I need, what's the next S curve of my development, we'll find that we have sort of suddenly become irrelevant. So if it is digital, if it is understanding of technology, if it is understanding of AI, whatever it is, we have to push ourselves, and continuously working on our development is absolutely critical. Let's move to the next slide, please. The one thing that I would say as you make progress in your career is don't be afraid to call out your ambition. Very often one hears, and very often as women, one hears that, oh, don't be too ambitious. You will come across as overpowering or aggressive. But the one thing, and one of the most powerful learnings for me from someone who's mentored me for very long in my career, is put your ambition out there. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter whether somebody else thinks you can get there or not. Put your ambition. Don't be afraid to say that you want to be the CEO of the business. Don't be afraid to say that you want to set up a business of your own by such and such time. Don't be afraid to say that you want to be the chief supply chain officer or the chief HR officer. What's the worst that will happen? You won't get there. And that's it. But the fact that you have put it out there means that, first of all, there's a line in the sand. You start working towards it. And you will be surprised at the number of people who come about to help you, to support you. So ambition is not a bad word. Put it out there, because when you put it out there, you will find that you can start to work towards it. I spent many, many years of my career saying that, oh, I just want to grow and I want to learn, and I want to do jobs that challenge me. And at some point, someone said, "Don't you want to be the chief HR officer of HUL?" And I said, "Well, I do." So then they said, "Why are you not putting it out there? What's the worst that will happen? You won't get it. Somebody else will get it. But at least you would have put it out there. Others, sometimes, others don't know what you are capable of, or just putting it out there helps verbalizing it, helps get that commitment." And so that's my point of view on ambition, and urge you to, as and when you sort of crystallize what you want, put it out there. The next slide, please. One of the things I wanted to say to you was, really, it doesn't matter what everybody else has done. And you will always get a lot of advice that, oh, this is the right thing to do. You must do a sales stint before you do a marketing stint. You must do a factory stint before you do a corporate HR stint. Everybody's views on what is right, what is wrong, is based on their own assumptions, sometimes their own preconceived notions, and often their own experiences. But you have to do what you think is right from your perspective. Ask, very often, use the gift of curiosity. A child, for example, when they step into a new experience, they don't have preconceived notions about it. They go into it based on just an open-mindedness, and you may want to do that. So it doesn't matter what everybody else has said or what somebody else's experience is. Your experience is your own, and you can chart it out your way. And that's why when you said, what's a hack for a career planning, or what is, the right career path, I often say, don't ask me that, because the right career path is the one that's right for you. The experiences that experiences that you gather, the opportunities that are presented to you, the opportunities that you take that somebody else may not have. So everybody's career is unique. Take risks, be bold, often putting your hand up for things that nobody has done. When people say, oh, don't take that job, that, is a dead brand, you're not going to get any success out of it. That might be, my friends, the job that you want to take, because you don't know, you might have a completely different trajectory. So it, like the one, drown out the noise, listen to your own inner voice, judge for yourself, because at the end of the day, you have your experiences, you have your strengths, and use the power of positivity and curiosity to say, why not? And you choose a path that works for you. It doesn't matter what everybody else says. And anyway, the pace of change and half the jobs that you do in your time will not exist today. That's what I wanted to say to you. Let's move to the next slide. Finally, something which I think is very, very important, especially for this generation and as you get into the workplace, grow the whole you. And what I mean by grow the whole you is make sure that right from the beginning, you are thinking of growing all aspects of your purposeful. And yes, of course, you must give your whole and soul to the job, and the organization deserves your 100% commitment. But equally, yourself, the person that you are, deserves to grow, because as you focus on the whole you will build perspective, have an understanding of what's happening in the world around you, read up, understand what's happening in our country, what's happening in our society, develop hobbies, develop wide networks of friends, give time to your family. And when you do all this alongside what you do at work, you will build a perspective and a sense of balance that will allow you to be far more effective in your job than if you just spend 20 hours working at the job that you believe. You will, sometimes you go slow to go fast. And therefore, when you find that you are investing in yourself in a holistic manner, it will be far, far more impactful for you than just tunnel vision of tunnel vision. So, for example, what does it mean for you in your summer internship? Do you only focus on the project? I would say don't develop tunnel vision on your project for the simple reason that many of you may be at this point in organizations which have seen the kind of upheaval which is very, very natural given where we are in the wave 2 of the pandemic. It doesn't matter whether your project goals are achieved or not. But if your organization, if your tutors and mentors say that there is more to this person, and if you get to understand a broader view of the organization, you will both be richer for it. Let's move to the next slide, please. Finally, I would say keep sight of your North Star. It's a little early for me to be saying this, but Unilever has been on a very, very powerful journey over the last 4 or 5 years, where we have invested in helping each of our employees discover their leadership purpose. My leadership purpose is to help unlock the magic between people, passion, and opportunity. Like I said before, it starts from the fact that I believe that each of us has a capacity that is greater than we are capable of. My own experience of the last 20 years tells me that my spark has been lit because of my experiences, the coaching, the mentoring, the skill building. And therefore, the legacy that I want to leave is make sure that I can unlock that spark and that magic for each person I touch. And if each person is working at their full potential, the organization is unstoppable. And therefore, I'm very, very lucky that my leadership purpose is so close to what I can do. It is a journey of a few years. It's not something that can come upon you immediately. But as you go through your career, think about what are the things that you uniquely bring to a situation. What are your values that are uniquely you? What are non-negotiables for you? And through this, you will be able to sort of start thinking about what is your purpose? What is it that gets you out of bed? What is the unique legacy that you want to leave? And keep sight of that North Star. And when you make choices in your roles, in your career that are in sync with your North Star and your leadership purpose, you will find that you are really in balance and you are really thriving at what you do. Let's move to the next slide. And that's really my last slide. And, as I was thinking about this session, I was reminded of a poem by Robert Frost, The Road Less Traveled, or The Road Not Taken. And these 3 lines really struck me, saying the two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Your career is your unique gift. You have all the skills, the capabilities, the wisdom to decide what's best for you. Make the most of the resources, the organization, your mentors, your friends, your colleagues, and carve out your unique path. Chart out the biggest vision for yourself, because then I know that you'll make a real difference and you will make it all happen. So I wish you all the best and very happy to take any questions that you
have. Thanks a lot, Anu. It has been like almost like that Robert Frost poem you're talking. It's like we went on a journey with you. So this was great. I'm going to ask Apur Goel to unmute and ask his question.
Sure.
Apur?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Gayatri ma'am, for the opportunity. And
Hi, Paul.
so basically, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So, ma'am, I am interning with Johnson & Johnson this summers, and I'm born and brought up in Delhi. So, my question is, what are the key elements that one should look forward in deciding their career path?
So I would say that look, first of all, think about if you have a broad idea of what you want to do, for example, which function you want to specialize in already, then that's great. But if not, I would suggest that you look at organizations that give you a slightly more broad-based training, which allows you the opportunity to experiment with different functions so that you can start to form a point of view on what is it that really excites you. But I think when you are choosing, it's a little bit of what I said. Things that you enjoy doing, things that play to your strengths are absolutely critical. The second is different experiences, not necessarily ones that people have taken before you and said that this is the way. Choose experiences and opportunities. Think about it that you're going to spend 10, 15 hours a day working on that. So if you don't enjoy it and if you don't have a flair for it, it's going to be a pretty hard road to keep walking on. Also think about what is the relevance of that in the future. What is the future of that business? What is the future of that skill? And finally, like I said, get advice from your trusted network and use all of this to make a choice of what you should sort of prioritize when you're choosing a career.
Thanks, Anu. I would like to ask Piyush Jawar to unmute and ask his question.
Hi, Piyush.
Hello. Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. So my question is that how do we decide that which career choice is apt for us? And if there are any deviations or anything like that, then how do we deal with that?
Look, I think the first thing to say is that nothing is permanent. And even though it might feel like, you have done a summer internship in finance, but actually you realize that finance is not something you enjoy. And in your second year, you decide that you want to do sales and marketing, or you get into your first job. You do that for a few years and you feel like, no, I don't want to be doing sales and marketing. I actually want to work in supply chain. It's okay. It doesn't matter because increasingly, I think when you work in businesses, what is important is that you understand the working of the business end to end. Core skills like understanding of the P&L, understanding of technology, and using data to drive decision making, leadership, creative problem solving are the generic skills that are most important and will continue to be most important. And I think that with this, if you keep growing this skill set, most jobs will come to you if you spend adequate time working at it, give it the number of hours, adequate time learning, and give yourself to it. So it doesn't matter if you change your mind along the way. And as you spend 4, 5, 6 years, you will start to realize that, look, this is what I'm good at. This is what I think I want to spend the next 10, 15 years doing. Also, you'll find that some of the most successful people are people who have changed lanes, changed careers halfway through with their, very, very successful journeys. So it doesn't matter. I think the ability, the learning agility, the ability to flex is really the biggest skill. So I hope that answers your question, Piyush.
Yes, thank you very much. Really.
Thanks for that question, Piyush. I'm going to ask Manasvi Rudra to unmute himself and ask the question. I'm sorry, I'm assuming it's a guy. So if I made a mistake, my apologies. Manasvi? Are you there? Yes. Okay, so let me tell you Manasvi's question. So, Manasvi's question was that we might like our internship projects, but we may still lack the exposure of the other domains, etc. You know, so how do we get exposure to other domains in which our project is not directly involved? So I think basically it's like internship is so intensive that you're so busy doing yourself. How do you at the same time get exposure to domain which may not be connected with directly with the work?
Look, I would say, Manasvi, that the important thing is to not develop tunnel vision. Like I was saying, it's important to focus on your project, but it's even more important to get an understanding of the whole organization. So I don't know which organization you're interning with, but there will be a lot of material available on their websites and in public domains. So make sure that you read up and understand everything there is. I am sure that they would have an induction program. At that program, listen keenly, deeply at everything that the leaders have to share. The third thing is that you would have a network of people who would be other interns. Make sure that you are connected with them. Talk to people who may be doing things in different functions from yourself, and use the time that you can in interacting and networking with them to understand more about their projects. And if you do this, I think you will get a fair understanding of what the broader perspective, what the broader picture of that organization is. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask all the questions you want, because that's one of the things about summer internship and management training. That's your license to ask as many questions as you want. And I think all of this together should give you a broader perspective of the organization.
Yeah, so Anu is
I actually wanted to, hello, sorry, thank you so much, Anuradha ma'am. Actually, my unmute was not working somehow.
No problem.
Thank you so much. That answers the question. Thank you so much.
And she's interning with TAS. So I
think lovely. And so TAS is an amazing organization where you will actually meet a lot of people who are working across the domains, across functions. So
yeah, that's why I asked this question, because right now I'm working on a project which is on product designing. So I just wanted to know if something, this is something that I would want to keep on doing, and also it's a general management role. So we will get exposed to other projects as well. But that answers my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manasvi, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Manasvi. Ashiv, you're next.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, Ashiv.
Hi, ma'am. Hi. So, ma'am, my question is, in this online mode of internship, so you don't really get to understand the culture of the organization.
Yes.
So, what would be your tips to handle that? Like, so to decide whether you would be a good fit for the organization if at all you're working with them.
Yeah. So, Ashil, I think what you were asking is a very, very genuine issue. It is as much for the organization as it is for interns. Anyone who joined the organization knew whether they are mid-career recruits or management trainees or interns are going through this. And I think it's a dual responsibility, both of the organization and of the interns, to make sure that you get an understanding. So the one thing that I would say is that it requires us all to be more mindful and intentional about it. Because what happens when you are in a physical workspace, you're meeting people and you can see body language, you're part of coffee cooler conversations, and all that, very naturally lends itself to you forming impressions about the culture. But even without that, there are lots of cues that one can take. So for example, simple things like, as an intern, always make sure that you have your camera on. When you put your camera on, it's a gentle urge to the other person to make sure that they have their cameras on. Simple cues of how people communicate. If you're in a meeting, virtual meeting, I think I don't know how much experience you've had, but you've also been studying virtually. Now we've all been working 1 year virtually. And I find that today I'm far more able to pick up the nonverbal cues in a meeting. So listen, watch carefully at what's being said, at what's not being said. From what is being said, listen to a number of leaders you can get an exposure to, and you will find patterns in the things that they are talking about, which will give you very good ideas of, what are the sort of values, what are the consistent themes that you hear, and from that you will be able to draw inferences. And reach out to members of your extended team. If you're working with, say, the finance team, ask your tutors and coaches to give you access to or make connections for you with the wider team. If it means you need to go to a few more forums, put your hand up and ask so that you have exposure to as many aspects of the organization as you can. And then if you have a little bit of some hypothesis, test that, ask questions. And these, I think, are some of the ways in which one can get an understanding of the culture. I know it's hard when it is virtual, but it's still better than it can be very, very insightful.
Right. Thank you so much.
Rituraj had a question. Rituraj, can you unmute and ask your question, please? I'll see if, okay. I have his question, so let me just read out his question. Rituraj is interning with Bain and Company, and he also has a question which is about internship. Of course, this is about career management, but their career begins with internship. So Rituraj is asking whether, an internship is a student's opportunity to understand the industry and figure it out. Given our nature of internship, which is virtual throughout its entirety, and he's hoping that this is not the setup that they'll be working as full-timers, how should an individual judge the cultural fit? Because, when I'm going around and moving around, you get in a lot of the atmosphere. How do you judge the culture fit in a virtual environment?
So I think, Rituraj, very similar to the question that Ashil asked. You can do all the things that I said already. And at the end of the day, I would just say one thing: an internship is just one experience. There is a long career ahead of us for you to decide whether this is the organization. Go with your gut. If you've had a good time, if you get a PPO, you may want to take it. If you feel that, no, I want to, because I have, had a virtual engagement with this organization, I'm not able to decide, it's okay, experiment with another. I would say that both on the organization side and the side of interns and students, there will be, we will be giving each other a bit of a long leash because these are unusual times. But this is just one very small part of your longer term career and experiences. So it's okay if you like it, you make the right choice. It's great if along the way you decide you want to do something different. Believe me, it's not the end of the world.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You will all do great. Don't worry so much about, and you will do far better, and you will get a much better understanding of the organization and culture than you think. If I already asked you, you're in Bain, Manasvi was in TAS, Ashil was elsewhere, you will all be able to describe the culture of the place that you've been in the 3 or 4 weeks, and there will be unique, distinctive elements that you will be able to bring out.
Right. So,
thank you, ma'am.
If I can ask a question.
Of course.
So my question is, of course, a little forward-looking. So, especially as a woman, what do you think of, there are people, I took a break when I had a kid, and there are people who don't. How does one approach it at a much younger age? Because I think if I'd approached it at a younger age, maybe I would have managed it better.
I think, Gayatri, the important thing is to understand why one is taking a break, and the drivers and the motivations might be different. Maybe 10 or 15 years ago, when I joined at that stage, that we didn't have as many women in businesses, and there was a lot more unconscious beliefs or preconceived notions about motherhood, marriage, mobility. In many ways, I think that a lot of those have been shattered over the years. And I think the last 2 years have told us that virtual working, flexi working is very, very much the norm and very, very possible. And if that was one of the reasons for taking a break, then that may not be a break may not be the only solution. The second thing is, if on the other hand, I actually believe that a lot of people will be taking breaks, sabbaticals, and doing their careers very differently, managing their careers. Because, like I said, what's important is a bunch of different and diverse experiences. I also said that it's important to grow the whole you. There was a career model which meant that you start in an organization and you keep on in that organization, work 9 to 5. But I find that there are so many millennials, so many people now who want to take a break, try doing something different. And I think in that, the important thing is, are you learning? Are you growing? Are you contributing positively to what you're a part of, the society? And then some choose to come back, some find other paths. And I think organizations are also becoming a lot more flexible. For example, our whole model of resourcing and looking at talent says that, we want 70-80% of the people to be people who are full-time working with us, and then another 10-20% who are part of the gig economy, or people who are part of the open talent economy, who come in, work for a bit because they want to pursue a lot of other things. And I think more and more this will become common and the norm.
Thanks. There was just a follow-up question. One is, of course, because you think you can't manage. I have often encountered people who have the fear that if you're not seen in the organization during the sabbatical, when you come back, you may be on the back foot. In your experience, how true is it, and how does one overcome that fear?
I think the fear is real, and I won't. I don't think. I think as an individual, yes, that fear is real. You also feel it when if say you're going on maternity leave and you have been working hard and on a certain treadmill like pace for the first 7-8 years, and then you take some time off. So that fear is okay to have. What I would say is the important thing on a sabbatical is, are you adding to yourself? Are you finding meaningful ways of growing? Stay connected with the organization. You don't have to be connected on email every day, but a few people who are your mentor, your line manager, maybe your HR partner. Make sure that you stay connected with them, so you know what is going on with the organization, so the organization knows what's going on with you. And be clear about the purpose of your sabbatical. If the purpose of your sabbatical is to just cut off, unwind, do something else, give focus to, maybe a caregiving responsibility, a maternal responsibility, a child, mothers and fathers, young parents taking the time off their kids, then it's okay, because you've made that choice, and give the thing that you have chosen to do that focus. If your sabbatical is to get a new learning or a new experience, focus on that. Find ways to keep the bridge with the organization, and it should be okay. And because I believe that in the end, every organization is looking for great talent. We have a lot of good talent, but there's always space, and everyone wants great talent back. So the way I look at it is, it doesn't matter if someone has been on a sabbatical, if they come back and they are still relevant and meaningful to the roles we have. I would love to take, and we often take people back, and they are even better after sabbatical.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to check with Leah and the Alcom whether they have any questions. Hi, Leah.
Ma'am, just one. Although everybody encourages us to realize early on the domain that we'd like to work in, but some of us, maybe who are in consult or sales and management, would realize a couple of years down the line they probably should have taken tech or something else, and they'll probably have to start from the beginning. So how do you recommend that? Because there are so many domains and you're only interning in one of them. So how does one recognize early on the one that they should be choosing?
Look, I I spoke about that before. Like I said, it doesn't matter. The important thing is the ability to learn, unlearn, relearn. And as long as your different experiences give you a broader perspective, which add up to, what you are building towards, or even if it doesn't happen mindfully, you just keep getting different experiences and you realize that there is something that you want to commit to for the rest of your life. It's okay. It really doesn't matter. Don't worry so much about, if I started in one and my internship, oh my God, it doesn't matter. There's nothing worse than making a bad choice or sticking with a bad choice because you feel you have to do it or because you interned in a certain domain that you have to stick to it. No, be very clear why you didn't like it or why you want to do something different. And as long as you have that clarity, it doesn't matter. And in fact, I think the more diverse experiences you have, the better it is.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. So I know, Anu, you said don't talk about PPOs. I want to ask one question.
I have no problem talking about PPOs.
Okay. How do you reject a PPO and how do you recognize that it's not for you? Because that is as important as getting one.
Look, I think if the important thing I would say is the culture of the organization, the people you have worked with, and we've spent a lot of time talking about culture, but even more important than culture, the biggest indicator could be the kind of people you worked with, or if you get a sense that, it is not for you, it's all right. It's okay to say no. Say it respectfully, say it as sort of pragmatically as you can. And it's okay, because I know people who have worked in industries that they don't feel would sort of, be longer term in sync with their priorities and their wishes. And then they have chosen to not work or to not accept PPOs or be very clear saying that, look, I don't want to, make a longer term in this certain industry. And that choice is also okay. Because at the end of the day, an organization is looking for good talent. If you think it's not the right place for you, if you are honest and say that, look, it's not what I want to do, I think there will be a lot of respect for you.
Thanks a lot. So I don't have any questions anymore, thankfully.
Thank you.
Leah, you want to kind of thank you for the session. I hope you have also enjoyed it a little at least.
I always enjoy meeting young people. Thank you.
I hand it over to
Thank you so much, Anuradha.
Thank you. Wishing you all the very best.
Thank you so much, Anuradha ma'am, for giving us your vital time. Such a busy schedule, and for making such an insightful session and for sharing your findings and experiences. And thank you so much for the needed push to drown out the external noise and follow our own paths, even if it's less traveled. I think it should be extremely useful for many of the students who are interning for the first time and starting their careers out. Thank you so much, Gayatri ma'am, too, for making these sessions possible for all of our students.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Great. Thank you. Have a good weekend and have a good summer. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anu. Bye.